You can take self-defense classes, learn how to shoot a gun, or get jacked at the gym. But when it comes down to it, your reaction time is critical to staying alive when someone else decides that today is the day that your life is going to change for the worse. Enjoy. When I was growing up, my friend told me a story that once when he was studying with his window open, it was about 8 p.m., he heard a faint scream in the distance that sounded like, "She's dead," coming from the woods near his house. Turns out next morning at school, they told us a teenage girl had hanged herself in the woods and that her friends had found her body last night while searching for her, and that scream was her friend. My grandfather used to go for long walks in the woods. One day, he got lost in the maze of trails and wound up on one he wasn't familiar with. As he was walking along, he found a shed and a man working inside. The two of them chatted for a bit, and he asked the way back to the main trail and was on his way. Every so often from then on, he'd make it a point to go visit his friend at his shed. They'd chat for a bit, but never for too long. He learned that the man's wife had passed away and that he was the single father of a teenage girl. One morning, as he was heading out, he saw smoke above the tree line. Deciding to see what was going on, he walked that way until he realized it was the man's shed. He looked inside and saw two figures there, the man and a young girl. He ran home and called 911. He didn't find out until later that the man was suspected of murdering his wife after she found out he'd been sexually abusing their daughter. The man had murdered his daughter and committed suicide, and the fire was started in the struggle. I was about 6, staying at my grandpa's house while my parents went away for work. It was about 11 p.m. I was asleep but woke up to pee and wanted a snack. Went to the kitchen, opened the fridge, turned around, and see a man walking with a limp and a gun. It's dark outside, but there's an orange porch light casting a scary glow over the man. We were out in the woods. No neighbors. The man sees me and limps toward me. I run and tell my grandpa. He calls the police, grabs his gun, and yells at the man to leave or he'd shoot. The man didn't understand, and my grandpa gave him one more warning, then shot him. However, the man had been shot before my grandpa shot him, and that's why he was limping. Apparently he robbed a local store and killed the owner. I don't recall all of the details, but hearing the news was horrifying. A murderer was on my front lawn with a gun in his hand. I have no idea what would have happened if I didn't wake my grandpa, or if I didn't wake up and get a snack. The timing was perfect. Years ago when I was a kid, I was staying at my aunt's house with my cousin. They lived just off a fairly busy road, so when cars passed by at night, the lights would sweep through the room. I remember one night in particular, it was wild out and I couldn't sleep. I felt immensely scared. A car drove by, and I saw a man's silhouette against the curtains, as if he were facing the window. I was petrified. I brushed it off as my imagination, but I was so sure. I remember being rooted to the bed and staring at the curtains all night. My friend and I would stay over at each other's house since we attended the same school and would take turns driving to get there. One of the nights I stayed at her place, we were getting ready to sleep. Lights were off, windows still boarded up from the hurricane that had hit. We were just talking, nothing special, when I looked over and saw a black mass gliding from her bedroom door past us and into the closet. The moment it came into view, I was filled with this deep sense that made my eyes water. I whispered to my friend to ask her if she had seen it too, and she said she had. Needless to say, Sleep did not come easily that night. Another more recent time, a friend and I were walking down a pier late at night. We got about halfway down when we noticed a tall figure standing very still all the way at the end and facing us dressed in black. We both stopped at the exact same time and got the same wrong feeling. So we turned around and quickly went the opposite direction. Even after we got into the car and drove away, there was still that instinct of something being very wrong. While standing in my bedroom, I saw a shadow person walk from my closet through the bedroom and into the bathroom in the middle of the afternoon. It's happened several times. Also, one time I had a coffee cup thrown at my head. When I was 12, me, my cousin, and brother were building a snow igloo in my grandma's backyard. We had the whole dome complete, and were working on the inside making the walls smooth, when I accidentally smoothed it a little too much, and a little hole to the outside formed. Instantly, a hand shot through the hole and started reaching around trying to grab something. At first, none of us in the igloo really freaked out, since we thought it was my little sister trying to break our fort. After grasping around for about 10 seconds, the hand pulled itself back out of the hole. When we went to scold my sister, there was no one out there. There were no footsteps, apart from our own. When I was in high school, my mom was out of town for some reason. My younger brother and 2 sisters were staying with my grandparents. I was home alone. Monday morning, I'm up waiting for my grandpa to pick me up and take me to school. I'm sitting downstairs in the living room watching TV, when all of a sudden, I hear a man and woman talking upstairs. Sounds like they're in my mother's room. I turn off the TV to hear better. I could distinctly hear a man and woman talking to each other. I couldn't hear individual words, just mumbling. I got up off the couch and started walking toward the stairs. As I'm walking across the room, I hear a small child speak. Again, no individual words, but the sound of muffled voices talking. Pretty freaked out. The voices are definitely happening. As I approach the bottom stairs, something upstairs in my mom's room hits the floor, like a thud, as if someone pulled out a dresser drawer too far out, and it came out and hit the floor. The voices stopped immediately. I ran the fuck outside and waited for my grandpa. Middle of winter, no coat, did not care. I used to live in a cabin with a half-mile driveway that bordered a forest. I was by myself one night and had gone to bed. About 3 a.m. I opened my eyes for no reason. Laid there listening and thought it must have been nothing. Got up to go to the bathroom. Didn't turn on any lights. Full moon made the house bright enough. As I walked past a window, I see a guy standing in my driveway. He's just standing there milling around. I knew it wasn't a ghost, but I've never felt so vulnerable in my life. What if he tried to come into the house? I'm all alone, no weapons, far away from my neighbors. He eventually left, but I locked that place down like Fort Knox after that. When I was 22, I had my first apartment, and my boyfriend, now husband, would stay the night. I had a roommate on the other side of the apartment, and we each had a pet. She had a little yappy dog, and I had a very spooked cat. My boyfriend and I were smashed up in my twin bed, and I remember hearing the sound of my door opening. But when I looked up, it appeared closed. I went back to this half state of sleep and thought I was dreaming of a man looking down at us. In my dream, the man turns and walks back out of my room, but steps on my cat's tail, making her scream. I sat up. The door was shut. Everything was as it should be, but my cat was in my lap, poofed and shaking. My boyfriend woke up, and I was unable to really explain how a dream hurt my cat. I walked across the hall to use the restroom and wash my face. It was sometime around 4:30 a.m. As I was walking back to my room, I saw a man's silhouette against the window and covered myself and screamed loudly. The silhouette jumped behind the couch, and I ran into my room and locked the door, hysterically screaming that there was a man in our apartment. My boyfriend pulls on his pants and his shirt and leaps into action. He runs out and confronts the guy, and I start to call the police. My roommate stumbles out of her bedroom and groggily tells me to stop. She had been at a bar across the road and saw a homeless guy on her drunk walk home, and thought it would be a good idea to let him sleep on our couch. She didn't know his name. We never got his name. But for whatever reason, he let himself into my bedroom, stood over my bed, and stared at me while I was sleeping. We made him leave and my roommate cried and said we were mean. Well, what about you? If you find a stranger in your house or driveway, would you just silently stare and hope he goes away? While I can't tell you what to do in paranormal scenarios, I do have one suggestion. Learn how to hit hard and swing accurately. See you next time.